And it seems we're live. All right. Okay, I'm excited for this. Hello everyone. Just gonna check something real quick. No. Okay. I'm just gonna assume that this is live and that this is working. And yeah, we're good to go. All right. So today we are going to be making preparations for a campaign that I'm going to launch and then I'm going to put on the channel. So okay. So first, and I'm going to explain, what my process is to come up with a campaign, how I do things like this, and how I and the step-by-step process, so that if you're a game master, then you can, learn how to do something similar. You can learn from. I can give you tips. I can give you, some advice, an example of how to do things. If I do things differently from you, or just ideas. If you're a player, it can also be interesting to see, what goes into the process of creating a campaign and stuff like this. So welcome to GM Prep Campaign 1. Okay, so the first thing, the first thing that I came up with for this campaign were the themes, and something that I'm really passionate about: social justice, based on what you've. Based on the name of the channel, it's important to me. And something in particular that's important to me is to try to talk about things that I see in the real world. And so I was thinking of making a campaign that's set in the city that I currently live in, Austin. So apart from capitalism, which is everywhere, there's one other problem in Austin. It's gentrification. So I already have the anime campaign, Anarchy in Stellaris, that's trying to talk about capitalism, that's trying to show how the system is problematic. I built that campaign around the themes of capitalism. And go check out that campaign if that interests you. It's just like, it's a typical fantasy campaign, but just set in but just like the themes of capitalism and how to fight it and things like this are explored. This campaign, I want to talk about gentrification. So I thought, which game would be best to talk about gentrification? And my first idea was Changeling, because, well, what are they called? The main antagonists in Changeling are the Fae, and the Fae are also called the Gentry. So I thought I would use that pun to base an entire campaign on it. But it goes a little bit deeper than this. So gentrification. What is it? It's basically the process by which communities of lower class communities that have that live in a very cheap neighborhood slowly are pushed out of their neighborhood by the rising rent costs and the destruction of the community, and the fact that, like, since less of them can afford it, more and more of them move out, and usually rich white people move in. It's something that impacts a lot of Latino communities, Black communities, things like this, and it's happening a lot in Austin, and it's happening where I live, Riverside. It's one of the communities, one of the neighborhoods, and because I'm white, I'm part of the problem. I know that I'm, just part of white people moving into the neighborhood, and just like I tend to buy organic. I used to, and I have a steady job, so I can afford to pay the higher rents that my landlords are granted. So I wanted to make a campaign about that. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about the solutions. So because I'm part of the problem, I did a lot of research. So here's the fruits of my research. I'm showing it on screen right now. So I classified the effects of gentrification, the benefits that it can have, the downsides. Did a lot of research into the different maps of what's happening in Austin and things like this, and ways to prevent it. So you can read all of that if it's particularly interesting to you. If not, it doesn't. I'm just gonna try to use those aspects in the campaign. So I'm taking something that's really vague and diffuse, and something that's it's hard to see gentrification happening because it's a slow process, and the communities change slowly, and so it's hard to take action against it and to prevent it. But I've used all of this data to make this map, which represents the different areas. So different areas in Austin that have been showcased by the different documents I was reading. And so all those dots in red are areas at risk or undergoing gentrification in Austin. The orange ones are the Latino neighborhoods, which are also at risk or undergoing gentrification. There's one neighborhood that stopped gentrification because they acted early, and they were able to buy land strategically to form a council that takes care of that took care of trying to stop gentrification from happening early on. And there's all of those neighborhoods that are already gentrified, and then there's a bunch more. I only got this one at the top. There's a bunch more that are susceptible to gentrification. So when you have something that you want to talk about, something that's important to you, that you want to raise awareness of, and you want to talk about it in your stories, you can. It's easy, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a way to work that into a Changeling story. So the main actors of gentrification are white, usually white people moving in. There's the community, the members of the community that are being broken down, and landlords, politicians, things like this. So those are going to be my characters. All right. So I already have a few ideas for characters. I am going to have someone called Mr. Sregor. And Mr. Sregor is a Russian landlord. I chose that name because it's Mr. Rogers spelled backwards, and the characters are going to be in his neighborhood. So very much the antithesis of what Mr. Rogers was, of everything that Mr. Rogers stood for. So yeah, he's not going to appear to be the main antagonist at first. He's going to be helpful to the characters. He's going to be there and offer protection and shelter. But then it's going to turn out I think this person is going to be the main antagonist of of the campaign, because rising rent prices is what causes problems. So how do you make that into the game? Well, simple. There's something in Changeling called goblin fruits, and I was thinking that I could use the goblin fruits as a commodity, as a way to pay for stuff in the Changeling community. So I was thinking rent in goblin fruits. And this way you start to take elements from the game and you put them into, and you add them to your story in a way that fits your themes. So goblin fruits. Okay, that's a start. What are the goblin fruits being used for? Well, Mr. Sregor is saying that those goblin fruits are being used to boost the protection. Okay, protection against what? So one thing that's happening in Changeling is that, the basic concept is you are a human who was kidnapped from the real world by fairies, brought to Arcadia, the realm of the fairies, of the gentry, where they torture you. They make you serve them in ways that are horrible and, really difficult. And you're changed by the experience. You become a half fairy creature, and then you escape. You make your way back to the real world, and from there you join the Changeling community, and that's where the campaign starts usually. So yeah, and the community has different courts: the court of summer, winter, spring, and autumn. And so I was thinking, well, the court of summer, they're warriors. Their whole thing is to fight back against the Fae. They're trying to to destroy the Fae using usually physical means. Okay, so and all of those courts are a little bit different in each city. So basically, I'm gonna adapt the court, the ideas of the court to fit Austin, Texas. So Austin is usually really warm, so the summer court is gonna have a strong presence. Okay, and they are going to be protecting the community from Fae incursions. Okay, so we have our main conflict. Basically, the Summer Court is protecting the Changeling community from the fairies who want to kidnap them back. But also, they need to get boosted. Goblin fruits, they recharge your energy, your glamour. Goblin fruits can be used to boost your armor and have lots of different effects. So Mr. Sregor probably going to be King of Summer. Yeah, Mr. Sregor is going to be, taking care of ensuring that everybody's all right. Basically, everybody that pays on time for rent, and in exchange, he controls the Summer Court to act in a way that is going to protect everybody. So yeah, the main thing that's going to be happening in the campaign is going to be so you want to have your events sort of planned out. Well, no, more like scenarios. Basically, what's going to happen is the players have to do odd jobs for goblin fruits, which we're going to call GF, in order to stay protected. Okay? So the different jobs are going to be based on who they are, what their abilities are, and the different courts. So basically, we're going to have summer jobs. That's a funny way of phrasing it. Yeah, so the summer jobs are going to be things like, doing what the summer court does, which is going to be, the attacking Fae. Defending from incursions. Okay, but not just that. You can also have other aspects, like, when it comes to brute force, there's lots of things that can be done. And we tie back to gentrification. one of the things that happens a lot is if people can't pay rent, they're forced out of where they live, usually by the police in the real world. Well, if you have like the Changeling community with their weird powers, you're not going to rely on the police to evict people. So you're going to rely on the summer court, their muscle. So then if the players, start to accept jobs like this, they might end up evicting some changelings, basically just leaving them to die because they couldn't afford to pay the rent, and so that they themselves can pay rent. Could be interesting. All right, now the winter jobs. Okay, so the winter court is winter in Texas, not a lot of it. The winter court in Changeling, they are their whole thing is hiding from the Fae. It's just staying hidden, staying preserved. They're very much the Slytherins, where the summer court is much more Gryffindors. So they're sly, they're cunning, and they're going to be they are going to be the smallest court in Austin. Okay, it makes sense. Texas, very hot, very warm, weird. There's some weird winters, so and it also makes sense with the whole themes. You don't need to hide if you got protection. Okay. You have protection. Okay. Still, there would still be some. There would still be some people. Okay. What would winter jobs be? Well, you could be paid to extract. Not extract, but help someone move. Okay, help someone move. If they're moving to a new location, which is going to be safer outside of Austin or something like that. You could have illegal jobs. So rob the goblin market. That's a really good way to make a lot of goblin fruits. Yeah. To steal stuff. Artifacts. Okay, things like that. Okay. Afterwards, there is the Autumn Court. The whole Autumn Court thing is they try to remember as much as they can from their time in Arcadia to get this mystical knowledge that they can use to fight the Fae. So basically, they're sort of like the wizards and things like this. So, okay. What are they gonna be in Austin? Well, in Austin, you have a lot of hippie cultures. You have Wiccans. My wife is a Wiccan. So, witches and mystics. Okay. Medium presence. Not as strong as the summer court, not as weak as the winter court. Okay. What sort of jobs do you get from them? Well, autumn jobs. Let's see, what could that be? Well, research, investigation into disappearances, things like that. Okay. Gotta try to find ways to tie those back into the themes of gentrification. For example, the winter jobs, there tends to be a higher crime rate in neighborhoods before the gentrification process starts. The gentrification process starts when students and people who don't really care about the crime rates start to move in to a neighborhood, making it more white, and then start changing the culture. So basically, the winter jobs that are going to be more illegal stuff. Those are going to be in the ungentrified neighborhoods. Okay. The summer jobs are going to be mostly based on in the gentrifying neighborhood. And so all of the research that I did with the map is going to pay off, because I'm going to be able to use that. Different areas are going to be in control by the different factions. Okay, cool. The autumn jobs. Okay, so they are more. I don't see I don't feel a lot of things based on the autumn court yet, in relation to what I'm trying to do, but I'll get back to those. It's okay not to have all of your ideas when you're starting your campaign prep like this. You can come up with new ideas. Usually, I come up with a lot of new things when I meet the players, and when we come up with the character ideas, and we start, it starts bubbling in my head because they have their backstories, and you want to tie the backstories into the campaign. You want to weave it in, and basically that's why I never completely formed the campaign until I've done character creation. I want my campaign to be like a sort of malleable mass that I can adapt to the characters' backstories. So basically, I'm just like putting a lot of ideas together right now, and then later, during character creation and after character creation, it's gonna become more formed, and it's gonna help me, decide what I want to do on the long term, because there's gonna be like character hooks based on the player characters, and what I want to do on the short term, because their immediate situation after character creation is going to be what informs the first stages. So this is the Changeling books, and this here are some of the sources and inspiration page. Just I've read some of these. I've seen the shows based on some of these, and it's I really love Neil Gaiman, and basically, yeah, I wanna know, I wanna do my research before the game starts. So yeah, I always look at these. Okay, good. Afterwards. The last court is the Spring Court. Okay, Spring Court. They are all about partying. Basically, what they do is they revel in the life that they've obtained again, their new life. They're free from the hell that was Arcadia, back in the real world, and what's important now is enjoying yourself. So, partygoers. And there's a lot of partygoers and hippies in Austin. So we're gonna be basing the Spring Court on this type of mood. So there's okay, yeah. their whole thing is some of the things that some of the jobs that you could do, spring jobs. There would be things like organizing a party. I think spring would also, because of their powers, be very likely to tend to goblin fruit gardens. Okay. So then you have like agricultural aspect, and they would be the ones who are like bringing a lot of goblin fruits into the community when the goblin markets aren't doing that. So organizing parties, I've got an idea. I've got a special idea that every week they're going to organize a party, and it's going to be tons of fun. There's going to be role play, and things are going to happen in those parties. Important character moments, and at the end of each party, everybody brings their cup that has just a little bit of drink left. They pour it into this massive bowl, and then every person is given a vial with all of the liquids from the giant bowl, and the memories of the entire evening are sealed away inside of the vial. And as long as you wear the vial, you remember the evening. And every Saturday they have this giant party, and if you had a lot of fun this and you have like important memories, this vial is going to be glowing. If you only had like just a little bit of fun, it's just going to be a small glimmer. So the goal of the spring court is going to be that like everybody has fun. Everybody like do the drugs you want to have fun, things like that. Oh yeah, related stuff. Okay, cool. And then the next day, Sunday, is Goblin Market. Goblin Market Day. Okay. Because we're gonna have rent on Monday. So you have, every week, you have to pay some amount of goblin fruits. Okay. In order to ensure your protection. We're gonna say 5 goblin fruits. I can change that later if like it's not a good estimate. So 5 goblin fruits. So if during the week you haven't been able to collect enough, you can go to the goblin markets and trade off these important memories, this wonderful evening. And the brighter it is, the more goblin fruit you can get in exchange. But it also means if something happens that's very important to the players during that evening and they're running low on cash, well, they can always trade it away. But it comes with a price. It comes with losing everything you've experienced. But it's a good way for the partygoers for the spring court to create new goblin fruits. Okay, and it's a good way to, there's lots of things that's been written on how under capitalism you party in order to be, to replenish your mental energy to go back to work. So even the act of partying, of trying to break free from work is only used to make you able to go back to work reinvigorated. And I want to illustrate that with this idea that you can have this awesome party and then not reap any of the benefits of it, not have any of the memories of it, because you gotta pay rent. Okay, so players. Okay, so we've determined what the players got to do. We've got our different ideas for the different courts. We'll work on those a little bit better, a little bit longer later. But yeah, that's a really good start. Okay, what's next? Well, what's an incentive? Incentives incentive is going to be, what drives the campaign forward? Well, I got this idea when I woke up this morning, and that's why I'm doing the stream really early. It's like I woke up with the idea, and basically I was like, okay, the players might not be really motivated to pay that rent, so all I gotta do is make it so that it's really necessary to pay. So I was thinking, there's a strong presence of Fae in Austin. Right, so there's a huge threat. And I remembered that I read about Zarumas. This is the Night Horrors book. Really good, super interesting. It's about dragon. It's about a lot of like major antagonists for the Changeling games, and one of them is this very strong Fae, dragon, and he is an extremely powerful character. He's one of the strongest characters in all of World of Darkness, and if you look at his stats are pretty monstrous. His health is 11 in human or changeling form and 40 in his true form. His initiative is 14. His attacks are 8. Have a dice pool of 8 for just the breath. Okay, when he's biting you, he does 32. He rolls 32 dice minus your defense. When he claws at you, it's 31 dice. Just him punching you is 8 dice. Just him using his sword cane on you is 14 dice. Basically, this thing is a beast. It has 7 points of armor. It's like really hard to kill. And he's got a whole backstory. I'll link the backstory back to the game. But basically, I'm just like, okay, he's an insurmountable force. This way, players are incentivized to pay. In the real world, you're incentivized to pay rent because you don't want to freeze to death in the rain, or, having a place to live is important. And landlords use that. So here is going to be like a stronger danger. Now, the players are going to be motivated to stay in Austin because that's where their backstory is coming. Every one of them. Okay, so in order to escape Arcadia, you have to have a strong link with the physical world. You have to have those memories of, what your life was like, driving you back home. So basically, you have to have strong ties with a place and people. That's what is. So inherently, a changeling will always have those things, and they will always they will have like a fetch that took over their life while they were gone, that they will have to deal with. And so basically it means that I can use that aspect of the game to force them to stay in Austin, to motivate the characters to stay in Austin. And so they have to stay in Austin, and if they want to be protected, they have to pay rent. And that's how you make your game about, rent and stuff. But here's the thing. Okay, couple of thoughts. First of all, role-playing games are mostly played by white people, white men, in general. Mostly. Because it's a very expensive hobby. It has the people who can afford it are usually higher class. you gotta pay the books, you gotta have like 4 hours every week free time that you're not spending doing something else. And so persons of color tend to be disadvantaged in our societies, and so they're less likely to be able to afford those things. They're less likely to have free time and things like this. And so culturally, our hobby, the hobby that we love, tends to be mostly white people, white men in general, because it's geek culture excludes other genders and things like this, and it sucks. So that means it's very likely that in my campaign, it's going to be mostly white people, and we are we are causing gentrification. We're not, we don't reap the benefits of it. We do, because wherever we go, wherever we settle, like the communities start to improve because the city starts funding it. Start adding bus lines. There's more bus lines in where I live now than there were before, because students started settling in here. So I want that to be reflected in the game. This idea that you can be part of the problem and try to fight it. That you might not realize that you're part of the problem until you've already contributed to it. So that's why I'm thinking of linking those themes together and having the changelings be part, the player characters be part of the problem overall. So my thought process is this. First of all, my thought process is Mr. Stregor isn't actually using all of those goblin fruits for protection. He has a pact with the Fae. He has a pact with the Fae, and basically he's able to stay his safety in exchange for delivering changelings to the Fae regularly. Okay. That means that he has an incentive. So he's going to be a loyalist, basically. Loyalists are changelings who stay loyal to the fairy that kidnapped them. So he has an incentive to evict characters. Changelings. Okay. And he and so it's going to be easier for him to do that with lower class changelings. So basically mostly persons of color, POCs, are going to be the ones who end up being on the receiving end of that. So and I'll try to find a way to link this back with what the characters are doing. If they're doing some summer jobs and they're contributing to forced evictions, for example, that could be a theme that plays back into that. Okay. Other characters. We need a king or a queen for each of the courts. Someone who's in charge and who's representing of the themes and what's happening with each court. So we're gonna have like someone who loves to party for spring. Okay, so spring queen. Okay, no, wait, spring monarch. We're gonna say that it's someone who is queer, because there's a strong queer community in Austin. Okay, so gender neutral, yeah. Instead of saying king or queen, and someone who's like really enthusiastic. And who organizes parties. Yeah. Okay. A lot of oh yeah, okay. Okay. So the land there's a mystical place between Arcadia and the real world that all changelings can access, which is called the hedge, which is it's this forest made of thorns mostly that weird goblin creatures live in, and changelings can travel there by, you know, walking through any doorway or archway or things like this, and spending some of their magic to get there. And in that place is where, in the hedge, is where all of the goblin fruits grow. So because spring is associated with, you know, growing stuff, there's going to be a lot of hallows to grow goblin fruits. Nice. Okay. So this person is a landowner. Mr. Sregor is a landlord. So we're tying this back to like territory, which is a big part of gentrification. Okay, so this person can afford to do, you know, to do the happy spring thing because they are a rich landowner. But not everybody can afford this. So it's gonna like you know, attract attention to the disparities. So it's a lot of members of the Spring Court might not have the same means, and it will be harder for them to do what the Spring Court does. Okay. I also want to have someone for winter. Okay. And autumn. So I was thinking of having a sort of banker type character, a banker who can lend the characters goblin fruits if they're, you know, if they really need to pay and they're low on cash, they're low on time, don't have time to get all of their things in order quickly enough. So I'm gonna go, I think, with the Autumn Court. Yeah. Because I want the winter yeah. Yeah, because I want the Winter King to be a sort of like crime boss type of character. Yeah. Okay. The Autumn Queen is going to be a money lender. Well, money / goblin fruit lender. Okay. So basically, like, all of them are gonna have something to do with the goblin fruits trade and paying Mr. Stregor all of the goblin fruits that he needs to, boost protection. And then it's gonna turn, and then like the players through the different adventures are going to find out that the goblin that he's hoarding the goblin fruits basically, and that he is he's basically hoarding wealth while being incentivized to to make it look like he's protecting people, but that he needs as much goblin fruits as he needs, and just and he basically has to try to make it look as legit as possible, that he has reasons to evict people, and then those changelings just disappear into thin air. The Fae come back and take them. One of the things I was thinking of doing is using contracts, pledges. Pledges are basically they're an important game mechanic for Changeling that I'm going to tie back into that I'm going to use in conjunction with my theme. Basically, two people, at least one of them must be a Changeling, swear that they will do something for each other, and they both get a benefit from that. They get a stat boost or something, and in exchange, as long as they both fulfill their part of the bargain, and then if one of them breaks their part of the bargain, they have to pay a price. All of this is determined when you do the pledge at the very beginning. So basically, there's gonna be a pledge with Mr. Stregor or Mr. Stregor's assistant's friends to pay rent. Pay rent for protection. And the price to pay if you fail is the price to pay is your so one of the options is to have your gentry, your fae know your location. So basically that condemns anyone who doesn't pay rent, and also one of the services that he's going to provide is rescue operations. Rescues from Arcadia. So if you get kidnapped by the Fae, but you paid rent, you can be sure Mr. Stregor is gonna, use all of those goblin fruits he's been hoarding to boost his summer court henchmen, and they're gonna go to Arcadia and they're gonna rescue you. That can be a summer job. Mission. Right. Okay. So we have ideas for all of the 4 monarchs, all of the 4 courts, all of jobs that you can be getting from all of them. I need to find a way to work a little bit on the autumn court, because I don't have a lot of ideas right now. But it's part of the process. You don't come up with the entire campaign in one go. When you do prep like this, you can realize that there's something that's missing from your prep, an angle you haven't considered. I'm going to be visiting a lot of the neighborhoods that I'm going to be talking about, for example, because I might have the map, but I don't have I haven't seen all of those places. So yeah, just get a feel for it. Still a lot of research to be done, and I'll get more ideas for the autumn court with that. Okay, Couple of other things that I need to prepare. The Goblin Market. Okay. Hold on. So Saturday, spring party. Okay, cool. Another big thing that plays into gentrification. Okay, I'll get back to the Goblin Market. Another big thing that plays into gentrification is the fact that we're getting a lot of people from mostly California move in to. Yeah.
I don't know where my bag is. Have you seen it?
Your bag? No, I'm sorry. We have a lot of people from California who are moving into Austin. Mostly, rich white people who can afford to. When they, are when they find that Austin is like really pretty, and that happens a lot because of the South by Southwest music festival, which is gonna play into the Spring Court. South by Southwest is basically, it's a huge music festival during which every person in Austin complains a lot because traffic gets blocked. The homeless people are just moved out of the city and like forced out of the city to make the city look good, and festivities happen for a while. Lots of tourists pour in, and then a lot of them decide to stay. So the Spring Court is going to play into those themes by organizing that party. Have a good day. So that's gonna be a thing that I'm gonna like have to add into the campaign. There's gonna be probably a South by Southwest scenario. Okay. So, another character that I would need is sort of like a politician type of figure, because lawmakers are really important to the gentrification process. They can, if they bring funding to a certain neighborhood, they hold on one second. To gentrification. I cannot write today. Okay. So for example, they can decide, they can have a huge impact on the solutions against gentrification. They basically, if you start to make a neighborhood nicer by getting more public services like buses to come there and more funding for, to build houses, then the place is going to become gentrified because it's going to look nicer. So more white people are going to move in, and that's how the process starts. But it's also possible for lawmakers to have to slow down gentrification by prioritizing people who are already living in the neighborhood to affordable housing programs. This way, the people who live there are able to stay there, even when they have to move out of the specific apartment that they're in. There's lots of things to do with rent and things like this that have an impact on that. So we are gonna need a lawmaker character, and I was thinking, I saw this Tumblr post about lawyers being ancient phase. They have to abide by the word of the law, not the spirit. They know they're tricksters and things like that. So I'm gonna have sort of like a character that's gonna like play into those tropes. Maybe a Fae, maybe a Changeling. Fae or Changeling character. And this person is gonna be one of the another one of the main characters for this. Okay. On top of that, we're gonna need some more characters. We're gonna need someone who's gonna be we're gonna need, well, you know, okay, we're gonna need the people who are, you know, most likely to be on the receiving end of gentrification. So POCs, people who, you know, don't have people who live in a household that doesn't have who's head of the household doesn't have a higher degree in education and things like this. So victims of gentrification. We're gonna have, so it'd be best, since this is a changeling campaign, for those people to be changelings, so that like there's a so that the players interact with them. I'll come up with a few ideas. I already came up with one idea. It's a person who's going to be getting evicted, probably by the player characters, as a sort of like easy quest. Coming up with a name. Let's see. Lorca. Okay, maybe I'll change it. I was thinking that this person basically, I was thinking of this idea of the changelings going to evict someone from her home, and they find that she has like this tragic backstory, and okay, she used to be a hard worker, always paid rent, until accidents happen, made paying rent hard. Okay, and I'm thinking of having like rent be both human money and goblin fruits to make it a bit harder for the players. They're gonna have to like do multiple things. Okay, an accident made it harder for her to pay rent, so she had to rely on the goblin market. The goblin market is a great place because you can trade away anything. You can buy a dragon egg, but you have to pay the price, and the price usually comes in the form of, you know, trinkets that you have on you, but that represents something important. So for example, if you have, you know, a knife that you only draw at in anger, and you trade that away, you might be losing your anger. You might be losing your vice, which is an important mechanic in World of Darkness. You might be losing your virtue, which is even more important. So you can trade things away. You can lose parts of yourself, and that dehumanization is part of capitalism. And I was thinking of, like, you know, having this character illustrate this by, no, she wanted to survive, so she had to trade so much of herself away to the goblin market in order to get the weekly, you know, goblin fruits, because she wasn't healing whatever ailment she had, and she could never make rent. And unbeknownst to her, a fairy, the fairy that had kidnapped her, fairies can also go to the goblin market, the fairy bought everything that she was trading away, and it's gonna be represented with her like being a sort of patchwork. Madame Patchwork. Okay. Or no, wait, no, Theseus. Theseus, Mr. Theseus. Because Theseus's ship. Yeah, a better name. Yes. Okay. Unbeknownst to him, parts of all of the parts that he sold were bought back by a Fae who assembles all of those parts and makes a sort of copy of this Mr. Theseus. And he has to like trade away his hand and get a hand made out of wood that can still move, but that doesn't have the sense of touch and things like this. So he's a patchwork character, and he's slowly just like giving away everything that is important to him until the moment where he has no longer anything to trade. And so he's just waiting there, not paying rent, and the characters arrive to evict him, and because he's breaching his contract, and since his contract breach would bring a Fae to his location, that's important, he has to be evicted. And as he's been let out by the characters, a Fae's gonna he's gonna like tell his story and try to get some sympathy from the characters. But if they still evict him, whether or not they evict him, the Fae arrives with the reconstituted Mr. Theseus and looks at the old one, simply doesn't recognize that Theseus as Mr. Theseus, and just that Faye might have like treasured him at some point, treasured this human, and really appreciated, and like having worked so hard to like try to catch him, and just doesn't do anything. He just leaves with the other Mr. Theseus reconstituted, who's going to look at who's going to like be full of melancholy, and the character that the players just evicted is going to realize that he's no longer Mr. Theseus, that who he is in that person who's walking away with the fairy. And that, I think, is very fairy tale-like, and it will play very much into the themes of dehumanization and the difficulties of paying rent. This character is gonna, is gonna represent that. Okay, so we're gonna have this Mr. Theseus character. Good. We need a setting for the Goblin Market. I was thinking, okay, so it's in the hedge, but there's usually a doorway that leads there. So I was thinking, try to play into the themes of Austin and the places that are weird that would like do a good Goblin Market. And I thought about Castle Hill. Castle Hill is basically a abandoned building-ish with lots of walls that are still standing, that have been graffitied over for decades, and there's always been a bunch of artists all throughout Austin that have like made the city beautiful with intricate murals and things like this. And Castle Hill is a representation of this. But Castle Hill recently has been closed down. They put a fence around it, and they are going to just destroy it and build a new apartment complex on top of it. So it's part of that theme of like destruction and reconstruction, so that the city can expand. And setting the Goblin Market there is gonna like play into those themes a little bit, and it's sort of like a whimsical place that is linked to the arts. So the Goblin Market is gonna be like it's gonna have lots of artwork sold, and goblin fruits oriented. Okay. So that's Castle Hill. I'm using like I've only been living in Austin for 2 years, but I don't go out that much. So there's lots of things that I don't know as much as I could, but I want to like weave my experience of Austin into this game, and I want to use some of the landmarks. Okay. Using the map a little bit more. Let's see. So yeah, this is more or less all of the ideas that I had before I started the stream. But I'm getting new ideas. You know, some of these are coming to me while I prepare it. So basically, you know, when you're preparing your campaign, you want to do something like that. You want to have, you know. You want to do some research. If you're basing this on a place that exists, you research the place that exists. You research the things that are related to what your campaign is about, and then that will give you some ideas of, you know, characters, places, objects, things like that. And afterwards, you try to like connect things together. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been trying to do. Okay. Another thing that I really want to try. If any of you know Dirty GM by John Wick. It's... Yeah, his name is John Wick. Oh yeah, Dirty GM is the name in. Yeah, it's Play Dirty. Dirty GM is the name in French. That book is awesome. I would definitely recommend that book. It's basically, it teaches you it teaches you about some misconceptions people have about being a game master. It teaches you another way of seeing the role of game master, and it teaches you like it's a lot about like the art of storytelling and making your campaigns difficult, making it harsh so that the players feel like they're really overcoming something. So you know, it's about, you know, as a game master, being placing yourself as an adversary, so that your players, but in a way that is like, you know, understood by the players, so that the players feel like they're overcoming something difficult. So you know, you like, I do a lot of pretending that I'm like a harsh game master to try to play into those things. But I've always struggled with like killing player characters and stuff like this. So I didn't learn. So like, it's a lot about like, you know, it's theater. Role-playing games are theater. So it taught me a lot about how to, you know, make my campaigns look scary. Make my villains look scary, make my games look like your character could die, so you have to treasure every moment. And one of the things that, one of the techniques that he talks about in his book is the living city technique. And I'm pretty sure that's what he called it. I'm translating it from French. That's because that's the language I read it in, and it might not be the way that he wrote it because he wrote it in English. But the living city technique is basically, you don't play all of your NPCs. You write goals, characteristics, your role, like, you know, of your characters, of your NPCs, and then you have one of the players whose character is absent for the scene play that NPC. So you give control of more NPCs to the players, and let them roleplay things and let them, you know, be creative in their roleplay. And because I, as a game master, I don't do very varied roleplay. It's one of my main flaws, and I know it. When I did try that technique, I tried it once before in an Unknown Armies campaign, and it worked so well. Because I have like really good character ideas, but I don't know how to like roleplay them and embody them in a way that's human. I something that I need to work on, because I'm always like thinking about the story. And okay, so I'm going to be using the living city technique, which means I need to make sheets for my NPCs with you know, their goals in each scene, their characteristics, which are going to be like, it's not necessarily their traits, their what's on their character sheet, but it's, you know, things that stand out. So appearance, mood, personality, and resources. Okay, so I'm going to be preparing this for every NPC, and then explaining the living city technique to my players, and then I'll be handing those out. And if there's and if all of the player characters are together, I'll be role-playing the NPCs in those moments. So yeah, I'm excited to try this more, because it's really hard to, you know, give that much control over your campaign to the players, which is why it's a technique that's much more useful in a bit more of a sandboxy type of setting, and that's more what I'm going for. I'm trying to shift more towards sandboxy games so that my players can like be more free to explore a setting that I've worked on, rather than just following the steps of a scenario with plot twists, which is what I've been about for most of my GMing career. But now I'm still going to have like main story elements that I have prepared, plot twists. So there's going to be Mr. Stregor being revealed as, you know, having made a pact with the Fae. That's going to be an important part, but that's gonna come in towards the end of the campaign. Okay, other NPC is the dragon. I forgot what his name was. Let's see, give me 1 second. Am I gonna come back to the same page? No. He's called Zoo. No. He's called Zarumas. Okay. All right. Zarumas. So, I want this character. Basically, he is going to he's going to come to Austin regularly. And people disappear. Changelings disappear. Now he has his like whole motivations that fit somewhat in my campaign. that I don't want to necessarily get into too much, because it's spoiler territory for a few campaigns. But the gist of it, like, don't listen if you don't want to get spoiled. But basically, the gist of it is he is trying to make a pact with cold iron. Cold iron being the only substance the fairies have not made a pact with, which is why it does aggravated damage to them. So he's trying to research that, and all of the Fae have their different goals and different things that they're trying to do. But like I'm taking him because he's like this huge unkillable threat. He's still killable, but like, and it's more like an end of campaign things. So he might even become an ally depending on the circumstances. So the players have to, move around that. I was thinking of having him. Okay, he's trying to research cold iron, so he's gonna be wanting to see blacksmiths. And so happens that recently I went to the Sherwood Fair. That's near Austin, where it's a Ren fair, a Renaissance fair, and there were blacksmiths there. So I was thinking I could set up a scene at some point where the players see a dragon overhead. Humans only see, mundane things. The humans would be seeing something like an animatronic giant dragon or a helicopter, probably a helicopter. Zarumaz goes there. The players follow him, find out a little bit more about like what he's doing there. He probably kills a few people, and then Summer Court intervenes with intervention of the summer. Now, if I have this happening early enough in a campaign, then I can have this like threat looming over the characters. They know that there's this bloodthirsty monster out there that can really hurt them, and that they don't have, like, they're not leveled up enough to fight back. So they have to pay rent. So that's why I was thinking of like setting up that scene at some point. So yeah, when you prepare a campaign, sometimes you just get like bits and pieces that don't necessarily all fit together. Like, I don't know when I would have this happen, if it would be during a job, or if it would be, during one of the moments where they're trying to fix their lives, and then like this thing happens to the side. That's something to keep planning for. So yeah, not necessarily in the brainstorming session that we're having, but yeah, I hope all of this gives you some perspective into what goes into preparing a campaign. If you're interested in making campaigns that have social justice themes, that's very important to do a lot of research. It's important to like understand the issues before you start, role playing as victims of those issues. Because if you role play it wrong, you might like misrepresent something really bad. You might give people the wrong idea, and just like being a dick in general. So that's important. I want this guide to like this video serve as be careful with things like this. Take that into consideration, and things to remember. Okay, decide on a theme. Decide on a center. Okay, sometimes when I create campaigns, I'll have the idea of oh, there's this scene that I want to play, or this plot twist, or this part of the world building. I had like I had campaigns set in worlds just based off of like one concept that I had. For example, I had the Reign of Darkness campaign, which was based on the idea that like murderers could sacrifice someone's life to get magical powers from a god, and basically that meant that like almost everyone who was powerful in the campaign were serial killers and things like this. The players had to find a way to, you know, deal with the fact that they had those powers and try to not become murderers, not become desensitized to the killings, because that's where their powers were coming from. And they had like and some of them managed to only kill the murderers and get their magical energy. Some of them became corrupted, and yeah, awesome campaign. So yeah, but it all started with this idea of, you know, a piece of world building. This campaign started with the idea of, you know, talking about gentrification, because it's a big issue of the city that I live in. So you start with like this core thing, and then you research and you build around it, and you try to have as many things that connect back to your themes, that extend from your world building, and then you just connect, you know, characters together. You connect characters with themes. You connect scenarios with characters, scenarios with themes. You connect places with the rest. You connect events that are going to be recurring events. And then you have your campaign, basically. It's important to leave it open until to leave some room for the characters to be themselves. That's why, like, you know, a lot of the I haven't, you know, decided on everything yet. It's because I want, when I do character creation, my players to have like, and their stories to mold the themes, mold the way the campaign is going to be, and things like that. Yeah. And yeah. I think that's about it. So yeah, it's also important to remember it's not all gonna come to you in one go. It's like a lot of like the writing part of being a game master is about like thinking about those things in your daily life. And you know, when I'm at work, I brainstorm for campaigns. When I'm biking to and from work, I brainstorm for campaigns. When I'm walking the dog, I'm, you know, I'm observing the world around me. I'm the media that I absorb. I try to use the plot twists and the story structures from those things to learn how to do it better for myself and things like this. So basically, a good game master never stops being a game master, and that's why I just woke up this morning with this idea of, you know, having Zarumas in the campaign, because my brain was just, you know, first thing that I did when I opened my eyes was, oh, I was coming up with ideas for this campaign. So yeah, you want to have like sessions where you write everything down like we just did, but you also want to have the just it running at the back of your mind, and you want to absorb things that you want to watch movies that are that have similar themes, that have similar settings, that have similar ideas. You want to read the poetry, you want to read the non-fiction and the fiction, and then you want to take bits and pieces from everywhere and weave it all together. So to help you. So basically, like, if you have flaws as a game master, look to how other people are, solving those flaws. One of my flaws is I'm good at making interesting characters, but I'm bad at role playing them. So I know I got to work on more voices. I'm watching Matt Mercer videos where he does like awesome voices all the time, and I'm learning from that while I'm just enjoying something. So yeah, if you think that I'm a good game master, go watch some other videos that I did, and you'll be able to learn from what I do well, what I do wrong, and that's how we all grow as game masters. And yeah, that's basically how I prepare campaigns. Right now, because of all of the brainstorming, I'm like, don't have like a lot more of ideas. I might come up with a few more characters later, like I might reuse some characters that I had before, and I might look through the different mien, which are the appearances of changelings for ideas, and I might look through the artifacts that they have available and different advantages that they have that are available as inspirations for different characters and things like this. So I shouldn't be showing the entire book, but yeah, for example, Wizard, they're the weird changelings. They are the strange ones with particular skills that that can help you, but they're a bit iffy and things like that. So yeah, like just looking at character designs sometimes gets you those ideas. Yeah. Okay. So that's it for today's streaming. I hope everybody had fun. I hope that you learned a little bit about the process, the creation process, and we had one person watching during the stream. Nice. But yeah, that's all for today. I hope everybody had fun, and I will see you around. Soon I'm gonna broadcast the character creation session that I'm gonna have with the players for this game, if I find players, hopefully. And then we'll be streaming the episodes. So yeah, I'll see everyone around, and if you're interested in some Changeling adventures, stick around.